throw stuff out there.
Yeah. But even on radio, like the Whack Pack and things like that. But that's
that was I was on radio way before that, though. I'm way before that, Mike. I'm talking. We're talking late 70s, early 80s when I was doing like nightly phone-in shows. It was a whole different animal because there was no other competition. If you wanted to talk sports and you wanted to hear people talk sports, there was, it was on the radio, like or through your newspaper. But again, that wasn't a two-way conversation or whatever. So I love that. I mean, to me, that was like, let's say you were sitting at Maple Leaf Gardens and everyone around you was talking sports. They were talking about the game. The whistle would go. Did you see what happened here, there? And it was all encompassing, like you and your buddies at the schoolyard the next day. That was the feel. That's what you wanted. You just wanted everyone else's input. So, you're nuts. Are you crazy? I'll bet you right now. No way. No fucking way. You? Are you kidding me? The Rangers, like, it was an ongoing thing in my life anyway. That's the way, those are the friends that I chose. I didn't choose people to go, just leave Baryshnikov last night at the National Ballet. No, I watched the Leaf game last night, or we went down to see the Maple Leafs play at Christie Pitts, or the Saturday game of the week, or the one Blue Jay game that was on every week. We recreated that game, and how did the MASH, what about MASH? Did you watch Dallas? That was the stuff you talked about, because that your entertainment from the night before was whatever game or event was on television, right?
Right.
Now, like to this morning, I got up and I went, holy cow, there's a million things we could talk about. There's literally 1 million things that we could talk about. By the way, just because it's the red carpet show, first game ever at the Sky Dome. Okay.
Yep. That's June 89, I guess. Yeah.
That's the ticket right there. And at the time when we went, I remember because I went with Taddy, and we were in the auxiliary press box, which would have been the football press box, and just watched it all. And I'm going, oh my God. This is amazing. Like nobody, I don't remember anyone going, oh yeah, but you can't see it's concrete until you walk in. It was, the whole idea was you walked in and what's going on here? And then you just sort of went, wow, look at this.
Which I kind of did.
The roof would open up and whoa.
Right. It's like a reveal.
And it was. And it was a huge deal because in 1989, there was nothing else like it. It was ahead of its time. And then within, I'm going to say about 7 years, it was obsolete.
Oh, Camden Yards came. That's what happened.
Camden Yards came, and then the whole idea that, wait a second, the idea, like at the Sky Dome was like, we'll have the greatest multi-purpose stadium of all time, because of course we've got the Argonauts as well, and they're going to draw big crowds, and we're going to get concerts. I remember seeing the Rolling Stones there. You couldn't hear a thing. It was terrible. Saw Madonna there.
Right.
Just the vibe was never for concerts was a good idea. But
no, I saw Elton John there.
It was exciting, and it was You saw Elton John there?
Yeah, in '89. Yep.
You know what? I was going over my concert. What happened there? I saw a video.
I saw that. I was like, I got to read.
What was that?
The cables need to be like
lightning. Lightning.
Yeah, just ignore the wizard behind the curtain there.
It's been crazy around your house as well, like outside of sports we're going to talk about today. It's just been kind of weird weather, and the schools. What I remember when I was a kid and it was weather like this, you'd say to the teacher, take us outside. Teacher would take you outside. Class would be outside.
Yeah, no, it's nice that the kids want to be running around playing soccer. It's been a good week. I guess we're gonna have I don't know, 7-8 degrees next week. So I think we're coming back to back down.
But you remember when you were a kid?
Yeah.
No one was talking about what the weather was going to be like the following week, because nobody knew, because nobody cared, because you didn't have the technology or whatever. It was one day at a time. It was like what a
5-day forecast. Like on the news, they give you a 5-day forecast.
Yeah, you'd get a forecast. Oh, look what it's going to be like Sunday. Oh, okay, yeah. But maybe that might have been in Dave Duvall. Maybe that's in the late 80s. Before that, it was like, Environment Canada, But the Buffalo stations had the registered meteorologists, right?
Woo.
Like we had Percy Saltzman and flipping the chalk, and we had Dave Duvall. I can write backwards, and he did other things too. I don't believe Dave was, certainly not initially, a registered meteorologist. We didn't care. It was a weatherman. Hey, just tell us what the temperature is going to be tonight, and it was going to be clear and cold. And now it's just so sophisticated that Oh, God, I can find out what the weather's going to be like in Chatham in 5 minutes. I don't mean it's going to take me 5 minutes to find out the weather. It's going to tell me what it's going to be like 5 minutes from now in Chatham.
And here's a fun fact from a guy who lives fairly close to the lake. So there was a moment a couple of days ago when Pearson International, so YYZ was 28 degrees Celsius, and Billy Bishop Airport was 14 degrees Celsius. This is at the exact same moment. So when people give you your Toronto forecast, I always got to like, oh, yeah, there you go. That's what it's going to be like in, I don't know, Rexdale or something. But, where I live, you got
Well, it's the old expression, San Francisco. You want to know the weather? Wait 15 minutes. Because it just changes all the time when you least expect it.
Yeah,
So
if you don't like the weather, just wait
yeah.
15 minutes. Yeah.
Just live one day at a time, folks. Don't worry what it's going to be like in 5 days because the weather network says that there's a 40% chance of rain in your area at a particular time. No, enjoy life. So yeah, listen, we're asking everybody on the red carpet, of course, everyone watching now. I'm just kind of lazy there's just so much. I feel kind of like I used to on the radio show. It was like Fridays, just mail it in Fridays, like ask Hebsy, just, if you've got some question or comment or opinion on something, like throw it at me. Because, if I miss it, it's because there's just so much. And there might be something from earlier this week that like, I just, I forgot about, or it just, it's not on my radar because it happened Tuesday.
Right.
It could be the women's hockey, for example, the WNBA draft that I missed,
Okay, so I'll shout out Wayne, Brian, Moose Grumpy, Dale Cadeau, Paul Ante, Dr. Doc. These are all good people already chiming in with comments. So yeah, let us know what you want us to talk about. But Hebsy, I gotta I'll wait for let's get going here. So it's 8:59.
Oh, we wait for the official
podcast listeners, of which there are many, will not hear these wonderful words I'm uttering right now. Only select few get to hear these words.
All right.
So. And Craig Miller too. We can't forget Craig Miller.
No, of course. How can we do that? In fact, you do a roll call, at this time every week, right?
I like it.
And it's the usual suspects, and it's great. It's like we're having a little party, and it's like, do we really need to do the podcast? Why don't we just keep this sucker going? Like we could go 5 more minutes before we start the podcast because nobody's waiting for the podcast to start at 9 a.m. Eastern, right? You're already here. It's like, oh, Jesus, I got to tune in starting right now on YouTube. No, the door's open. Have some popcorn. Something like that.
Have some popcorn. No, people.
Let's go.
Okay. You retweet that, and then I'll hit you with the Los Lobos.
All right.
Here, actually, hold on. Let me get myself. Let me get my.
Very exciting. I have so many notes here. So much notes and paper, and both sides of the paper and stats and
wow.
The 1984 Blue Jays were just like this year's team, and they were awesome, except they were the Tigers. They had the Tigers that year, and they couldn't beat the Tigers. Nobody could. And this year, I'm worried that Tampa's going to be the same. Tampa's going to be like, they're going to jump out to a big lead, and it's going to be like you're chasing Secretariat. You're getting close, and then he just pulls away.
At least we have a wild card now. 84. I like that 84 team. 83 is when I started falling in love with this team. And then we really closed the gap in 84, but it was just like you said, it was like 40. I don't know what it was, 45-5 start or something like that. I don't know.
35-5. 35 it was ridiculous. 35 of your first 40 games. I mean, that's crazy.
Ridiculous.
That's insane. Let me get the script up here.
All right.
There it is. Okay.
You ready to rock?
I am ready to rock.
Here we go.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to Hebsy on Sports, episode 329, and we've got a dandy for you today. Not that the other shows haven't been great, but this one, there is I always say, there's so much going on in the world of sports. There is. Every day, I'm not going to lie to you, there's so much going on. This brain can only handle so much. There's so much information out there. Let's see if we can disseminate it, I guess you could say. And I'm sure there's going to be things that I haven't mentioned that you're going to go, how come we're not talking about? Why aren't we talking about the final show of Tim and Friends? Right? Why aren't we, the final episode of Friends? No, Tim and Friends, not Friends. That's different. It's a different show. Because someone asked me about it, and I only caught the Friends. Did you catch the final episode of Friends? And I mean, you mean when Ross and Rachel? No, not Ross and Rachel. Tim McAuliffe and Jesse and all the goodbyes and that kind of thing was the final show. That was opening day for the Jays. You might want to talk about that or not. By the way, can someone find me a 9-year-old, okay, as bold as DeMar DeRozan's daughter? I'd like to have that person near me in case I need to get something done. Just do me a favor, will you? Scream as loud as you fucking can and keep doing it. It's working. How does a team lose to a 9-year-old? Inconceivable to me. The Blue Jays back in town. New look team, new look stadium. Have you gone to a game? Any of the first 3? If you have, please let us know. We'll be taking your phone calls, taking your texts, taking your online comments via our YouTube channel. We want to know if you're at the game. I want to know before I go. I need I need a scouting report done. I'm not just going to go down there this weekend and against the Rays and, be on my own. I need to know where to go, what to avoid, that type of a thing. So let us know via your comments. Okay. Toronto Mike will be looking after that. One of his many roles, the many hats that he wears on this show. And that's him right over there. He's looking at him. He's dialing up. He's got things going. I'll explain everything later on. Leafs are as ready as they'll ever be when it comes to playing that other Tampa team. That's right. We get the Rays this week and the Jays, and then that other Tampa team comes to town. It's like, did the city of Tampa rent out a bunch of rooms and just say, okay, Rays, you guys are staying here, and then just leave it clean because when the Lightning come, they're going to stay in the same place. They rent a villa or something like that. Like there's the whole. And what about the fan? If you're a Tampa fan, are you here for the, for like both series? Come on, let's go up to Toronto. Weather's beautiful up there. 100 degrees. Let's go. Our dollar is worth $1.40 Canadian. Let's go. You're going to be there for a week to watch your teams. That would be a good road trip. If I'm from Tampa, I take that road trip. If I know that the Leafs and the Rays are going to be there back to back in a certain city, I'll go. That'd be a hell of a week. We'll talk about all that stuff. Huge TV ratings for the NBA play-in tournament games. Should the NHL try something like that? Wouldn't that be great? Pittsburgh, Florida, Islanders, Buffalo, all involved down to the wire. Can you get into the 9-10 game, the 8-7-8 game? That would be great. NHL should think about it. And I'll bet you they'll institute it 10 years from now, maybe. Anyway, we'll get to all that stuff and plenty more. Here's Toronto Mike. I'm exhausted just with the intro.
Hebsy, let me take the mic for a moment. This Raptors team never looked right. Like it wasn't a good team. And I said to you so many times that we should be sellers at the deadline. And you did.
You're 100% right.
It just wasn't. You are
100% right.
But we were buyers. Like when I think about the fact that we were buyers at the deadline, and never I'm not suggesting I'm even 1% as basketball savvy as the great Masai Ujiri, but it never made sense to me. Can you make it make sense to me?
Yeah, I don't think Masai Ujiri really, I think he feels bad that he didn't put a more competitive team on the court for Nick Nurse to coach. It really is. I mean, when you looked at the Raptors bench from the beginning of the season, you went, And of course, we expected big things from Scotty Barnes, and he was a huge disappointment. But the biggest disappointment is Siakam. I won't get into that too. Your best players have got to be your best. He was horrible. No, I mean, not bad, horrible. He choked. Van Vliet choked. OG choked. No other way of putting it. All right? And I know the Raptors weren't expected to go far in the playoffs. Okay, a play in, a sneak in, or whatever you want to call it. I get that. And they probably would have gotten wiped out by Milwaukee. All right. But still, you're at home, a team you've kicked the crap out of 3 times this year. The Chicago Bulls. Come on. Okay, if you win this, hey, you get to go to Miami for a couple of days. Maybe you knock off the Heat. Maybe you get a first round. Maybe. But no, you know what? It's almost like, and I think I mentioned this 2 episodes ago, Mike, when I saw Nick Nurse, they asked him about his future, and he went, you're going to have to take a bit of a break. And, the team hadn't offered him a thing. And I said, wait a second. This doesn't sound to me like a coach that's trying to prepare his team for a playoff run. It sounds to me like a coach who's resigned to the fact that this team isn't going anywhere. And, you were right from the beginning there, Mike. They should have been sellers. Instead, they got Jakob Poeltl, and they looked good for a while there. Oh, maybe they'll challenge for the 7th seed. Woo, But in reality, the best players in this team did not perform at the key times. And when you blow like when you let a 9-year-old scream. And I'm not just talking about the team here. They're obviously rattled. Scotty Barnes even said so. He said, well, she sure did her job. I mean, but just for Toronto fans as a whole, just for all of us to allow that to happen. If I would have told you in advance, DeMar DeRozan's daughter or some kid is going to go and just scream every time the Raptors took, and at the key time, like the time, like it would be the same as, well, let's face it, as the tennis player is throwing the serve up and the ball's in the air, somebody screams. All right. And so at some point, someone is going to say to that person, someone should say to that person, could you please cut it out? Or that's wrong. Or if it's a child, the parents would say, no. Or the person sitting next to them would say, shut the fuck up. Shut that kid up. But no. And here's Fran at the free throw line. Clank. Oh, and here's Pascal. Clank. Oh, there's Scotty. Clank. It was a fucking running joke. They asked DeMar DeRozan after the game. He goes, yeah, I heard that. It was pretty. He didn't say the word annoying, right? Yeah, I heard that. And I'm thinking, wait a second, that's my daughter. And when as soon as he said that in the postgame, I said, oh, this is the way the conversation went. Dad, I want to come to Toronto to see you guys play against the Raptors. And DeRozan said, no, sweetheart, you got to be in school. You're 9 years old. You got to have school. Dad, I want to go back to Toronto. Okay. But under one condition. Every time they get to the free throw line, you let out that blood-curdling scream. All right? Just do it. No one will stop you. Security can't stop you. None of the fans would ever dare go up to you. They can't eject you. You're 9 years old. Just see how many times you can do it. Just try. I wonder if that conversation took place or anything like it. Like someone said, if you want to distract the Raptors, they're easily distractible. Just scream something out and see what happens. First time she did it, clang, right? But it's early in the game. We're going to act, When you miss more than 10 free throws in a game, you're going to lose. When you miss 18 free throws out of 36, when you shoot 59% from the field, but you only shoot 50% from the free throw line, free throw, free. It's free. I don't care how bad your three-point shooting was. It's free. Looks to me like the Chicago Bulls shot 82% from the free throw line and the Raptors shot 50%. And that's why they lost the game. It's because of a 9-year-old. And by the way, how does she get to come to the game? Okay. And then the goodwill ambassador, the global ambassador for the Toronto Raptors is like a couple kilometers away singing with frickin' Lil Wayne. He's not in his courtside seats. It's Charles Oakley's there. He knew. Drake knew. He's a fair weather fan, despite what he says. He could have been there cheering on the Raptors. He went, nah, they're not going to win. And even if they do, Lil Wayne's in town. And I know he's got a special relationship with Lil Wayne, but he's got a special relationship with the Raptors too. Why couldn't he have brought Lil Wayne along? He's got 2 seats. Want to come to a Raptors game? Couldn't hurt, right? No. It's all about the do-re-mi. Global ambassador, my ass, fair weather fan. That's what he is. Or maybe he just knew that there was no way he could compete with DeMar DeRozan's 9-year-old daughter and those blood-curdling screams. Clank.
Yeah, you're not doing it justice because you can't hit the pitch that she
I
hit.
would know. Oh, God, no.
I shriek. I hate that pitch.
My God. It is. It's the most annoying thing. But again, if you're sitting there, Mike, you're a parent.
Yeah.
Okay. You're rattled and you're a fan. You're rattled and the team's rattled and everybody's rattled and nobody can go up to this girl, I guess, and say anything. And why aren't the parents doing anything in the right?
May I ask a question?
Yeah, she held the place hostage.
I have a 9-year-old. Okay. If I heard my 9-year-old do that, that would be the last time I heard that. I'd be
No, not if you were playing for the Chicago Bulls.
So let me ask you
this.
this.
The team that traded you away and then won the championship the following year, the NBA.
Well, that's another discussion. But
This is revenge. Revenge.
Why couldn't
okay?
security stop this? If this was anyone else, this was annoying. I watched this game on television and it was really bugging me. Like, forget the fact we were missing the free throws. That's a whole separate conversation. This team wasn't very good.
No, it isn't. It's exactly what's
well,
that was her intention.
On a 9-year-old
she went with the intention of hoping them to miss. Not thunder sticks, Mike, which I keep telling you is ridiculous. These guys are used to this.
But at least that pitch
sticks.
I can handle.
But nobody, think about this.
Yeah.
Nobody, you cannot find me a game where a game was decided, okay, on the inability of a team to shoot free throws because of a distraction from the crowd. Go find the story.
Why couldn't we have stopped this? I don't understand why this was tolerated.
I couldn't find it anywhere. But wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay, what is intolerable fan behavior?
That.
According to
that was according there's everyone knows there's a we reserve the right clause, which basically means
okay. And so you were going to be the one to eject the 9-year-old. Is that right?
Was there no adult supervising the 9-year-old girl?
Nope.
So the only adult supervision was a player in the game.
But wait a second. Yeah. Who says that you have to have adult supervision for a 9-year-old at a Raptor game? Yeah, my mom's sitting over there. She's up there. I'm down.
Okay, well, there. Let me talk to her. Right there, there's some adult responsible for the 9-year-old.
Right, and now so you go to the adult, and what do you say? Your security. What do you say?
Your excuse me, your 9-year-old is shrieking.
Is making our team miss free throws.
Oh, forget our team. This part I want to remove that because I don't want to sound like I'm blaming the 9-year-old.
Making the home team miss free throws.
It was annoying to watch this game on television because of these shrieks. Because once you notice it, it haunts you the whole game. I hated it. I was gonna bike to the Scotiabank Arena, slip in, and have a conversation with this young girl.
You were. What were you gonna say to this young girl?
Please stop shrieking. Yeah. Maybe you can go up to the box seats and watch the rest of the game up there because
I want to root for my daddy, and I want the other team to lose. No, I reserve the right.
I think it's Bush League. Like I'm embarrassed that MLSE had no ability to stop this young girl from doing this. Like to me, it's embarrassing. Like, is this the big leagues? Or like I would not tolerate this at a 9:05 game. Like, what is this? I don't know. You're pretty cool on it. I think it was garbage.
You're damn right. Okay. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She's the MVP.
Bush League.
Brilliant.
Bush League.
Brilliant. Okay. 9 years old. 9. I don't want my dad. I don't like this team. They traded my daddy away, but then won the championship the next year. The hell with this team. Every time they shoot a free throw, right? Yeah, that's exactly right. You got beat by a 9-year-old. Okay. And never mind that. Nobody was saying a damn word when the Raptors were up by 19. Not one person was saying, oh, they're up by 19 points. Oh, it'd be more if that girl wasn't shrieking and making us miss free throws. Do you remember that, Mike? I didn't hear one person say we should be up by 27. But we missed all those free throws. Not one. Not one. They blew 19-point lead at home. Mike, I can tell you this right now. I'm watching the game. I won't say who it was with. I'm watching the game. Mm-hmm. I guess it's late in the third quarter. And the Raps up, I guess, 19, whatever. And the person says, this game's over. And I said, I'm going to make you a bet right now. This game's far from over.
Right.
Far from over. And it's not even going to go down to the last minute. Okay? This game's far from over. And I was right. We've seen it before. Sickening. Now the thinking of it, and I have no appetite now. I can't eat anything for the rest of the day. All right. And I'm talking about at the time.
Right.
You know, and I'm going, this is the exact same feeling I had when the Blue Jays blew that 8-1 lead against Seattle. When there was a certain point where you were going, this isn't going to end well, right? Like you kind of knew it. Like when it was 8-3, you were going, oh, right. And then it was 8-5. You're like, you're going to throw up in your mouth, right? And you knew it, just like you knew when the Leafs were up 4-1 with 11 minutes to go, or up 3-1 against Montreal, and you just knew. There was that sickening feeling in the pit of your stomach. Not shock when they lost, right? Disappointment.
Oh, no shock at all. No
agony, right? Not shock because you've seen it before with Toronto teams. Now, we're not going to compare a play-in game at home, okay, to maybe still make the playoffs. We can't compare that with, game 2 of the wild card series. That was the playoffs, 8-1. Right. Or we can't compare that with game 7 in the first round of the playoff, or can we? Because to me, blowing a 19-point lead at home is very similar to blowing a 4-1 lead with half the third period to go, or very similar to blowing an 8-1 lead in the 4th or 5th inning. It is. It's the equivalent.
Not
19
quite as
points.
bad as those two.
Teams have come back from. How many times have the Raptors blown a 19-point lead? Lots of times. Happens a lot in sports. 19 points.
Hebsy, I'm sorry to hear. I understand that DeMar's daughter will not be in Miami for this game between the Heat.
No, she has to go back to school.
Right. Okay.
Although, you know, the way, if she's that much of a good luck charm, I'm sure someone could afford to like Learjet her down. She's taking the afternoon off. She's got to be in Miami tonight. She goes to school till 3:00. Right now, 3:00 in Chicago is 4:00 Eastern time. So she's got to get on a plane, and Chicago to Miami's got to be 3 hours, maybe more. So you're losing an hour. She's gonna have to take the afternoon off school. All right?
0% chance the Miami Heat tolerate that. Like these amateur.
Do you have any idea what type of PR fiasco if they forcibly remove this girl from the game? DeMar's 9-year-old daughter.
You make it sound like they're going to handcuff her and walk her away.
Hang on a second. First of all, number one. Think of the optics. Okay? And I say this in all honesty and sincerity, no matter where it takes place. It would be wise for them to have 2 female African-American police officers or security persons to take out this 9-year-old girl. Any other look would be horrible optic-wise. Absolutely. What are you doing with this poor girl? All she did was scream. You're allowed to scream. First Amendment.
Should be her
blah, blah,
father.
Blah, blah, freedom of speech. It would be a disaster. So you have to think of the optics of this. If you're going to have this person forcibly removed from a game, so why are you taking this girl out? Well, she was screaming, and the Raptors were missing free throws.
or maybe don't forcibly remove her. Maybe ask her to stop doing that. I mean,
and she doesn't stop because she's 9, and she doesn't stop.
Maybe ask her dad to have a convo with her.
Yeah, right. He's playing the game. Okay. But in the meantime, think of this. You've been successful so far. You scream, they miss. You scream, they miss. Why would you stop? Why would you stop? And if I'm a Chicago Bulls fan and I'm sitting nearby, I'm saying, keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's working. Scotty Barnes admitted after the game. These are professionals. These are guys who are ice in their veins as they step to the free throw line with fans screaming and with noisemakers, and then calmly knock the ball in. And now they're rattled because as they're about to shoot, they're waiting for that scream. It's like someone is snoring next to you, and you're like, oh, maybe the next breath they take, they won't snore. And you're thinking about the snore, you're thinking about it, and you're at the free throw line, and you're thinking, when's that scream coming? And just as you're about to release the ball, clank.
We wouldn't accept this from a high school game, Hebsy. It's funny how you're almost like, oh, good for her. They helped the team win, avoiding the whole fact that it's essentially a cheat.
What?
Right?
Are you kidding? So there should be no trash talking. There should be no booing. There should be no anything that could distract or get into the head of the team that you're rooting against. Come on.
Well, I didn't say anything of the nature. You invented that.
We would do the same thing, man. I got news for you. If we were playing in Chicago, okay, and one of the players or former players, the daughter or anybody did the same thing in Chicago, all right, and they kept missing free throws, we would be sitting there going, keep screaming, anything to distract them.
Oh God,
no. We want to win. We want to win.
Final 2 words, Bush League to me. Bush League. I wouldn't tolerate it at my kids' primary.
What was Bush League? Was it Scotiabank Arena was being Bush League? The Raptors organization, the head of security? Who was being Bush League? We're talking about a 9-year-old.
Yeah, well, I don't blame the 9-year-old because 9-year-olds are going to 9-year-old. Like, obviously, some adult somewhere needs to interject and correct this because she would never do that in Miami because it would not be tolerated.
You don't know that. Speculating.
Isn't it interesting? We'll never find out. Like that was it.
Speculating.
Done. Anyway,
okay. All I know is this, Mike. Even after all that down the stretch, if you recall, Pascal Siakam had a chance to tie the game when he was awarded 3 free throws. Okay, so we're going. All right, listen, man. We know that he hasn't been shooting well. He was 4 for 8 at the time or something like that. I think he was 4 for 8 at the time from the free throw line. You're going, okay, listen, but the guy shoots 77% during the regular season. He knocks these 3 down. You know, we got a chance to win. We were going to tie the game. And even if he makes 2 of the 3, we can still foul and get another chance. We got a chance. Okay. And this is the season in a microcosm. Mike, he misses 2 of the 3 free throws. Pressure's on. You got to make this, dude. You've done this 1,000 times. Just knock it in. He missed, and he missed again. And that is the best definition of a choke job, Mike. That's when you say the team choked because a defenseman coughed up the puck late in the game and the other team scored. Oh, okay, the defenseman choked. But when a team, as a team, cannot make free throws, okay, especially at a time like that, that's a choke job. And this 9-year-old helped that. They choked. Your best, Siakam, 5 of 11 from the free throw line. Dude shoots 77%. You're telling me that's like an A student going in and instead of acing the final exam, barely passing. Okay? C-. What the hell happened? Choke. What's the explanation? 5 for 11. A high school player could shoot better. Scotty Barnes, major disappointment this year, 4 of 7 from the free throw line. OG Anunoby. He's injured. He's not injured. Oh, he's a great defender. He got burned by Zach LaVine. Oh, and by the way, thanks for coming out. 3 for 8 from the free throw line. You're a professional basketball player? 3 for 8? Fred VanVleet, a 90% free throw shooter. 3 for 6. Who does that? Mike, who does that? 90%? 3 for 6. Folks, plain and simple, the team choked. Self-inflicted or otherwise, 9-year-old. Break the team up. What can be done? I don't know. I'm open to suggestions, Mike.
Get a time machine, go back and be sellers at the deadline. Let's do that. Get that lottery pick.
We'll let it fester for a while. By the way, the NBA really hit upon something. This play-in tournament is brilliant. TV ratings were huge. The other night, the Raptors-Bulls game, massive TV ratings on ESPN. And the Pelicans-OKC game, also huge ratings. And I think the ones from the other two from last night were also big. So the question is, if down the stretch, the teams that are in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th will all be part of a play-in tournament. And it was the NHL said, well, let's try the same thing. Would it work? I mean, if you had Florida, the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Sabres, for example, all battling, and other teams, Ottawa was in the mix for a while there, battling for 2 wildcard spots. Yep. Would that not be great?
That would work. I was thinking the same thing as I watched this game. I was thinking this is a great idea, and the NHL should do it.
Yeah, in the West, Calgary, Winnipeg, Seattle, Nashville. Who else is involved there? The Kings. No, the Kings they won their division. No, they went. No, they were third. Vegas. That's another. People
thing. Like a one game, winner go loser go home type deal. Those are exciting.
I think so too. The fact, and again, the fact that if you win the 9-10 game, you get to play the loser of the 7-8 game.
Right.
You right. Your chance. Yeah, so, and even if it's a one-off, it's great for television. It is. It's very exciting to see those, win or go home. This is it. Do or die.
Love it.
So maybe the NHL should do the same thing. Speaking of hockey, the Leafs beat the Rangers 3-2 last night to end their regular season. Joseph Wall got the win. Willie Nylander got his 40th goal of the year. He can now say, I'm a 40-goal scorer. Wow. 39 sounds great or whatever, but man, 40. I'm a 40-goal scorer. Yeah. I got 40. How'd your team do that year? Doesn't matter. I got 40. Okay. Mitch Marner, though, denied his 100th point. So you can't say that Mitch Marner is a 100-point player, but 99 is pretty good. But again, 100. And Austin Matthews will end up scoring his 300th career goal next October. He stuck at 299. Everyone was going, wouldn't it be great if Marner got his 100th point on Matthews' 300th goal? No, it's an individual milestone. You should be separate. Right? You should get the full, it should, right. If Marner got his 100th and Matthews got his 300th at the same time, it would be kind of like, they'd wash each other out,
But I can almost hear your voice in my head reminding us that these mean nothing. Like, what does
they do? That's right. They mean nothing. That's right.
What does 300 goals mean? Nothing.
Well, no, not nothing. It means something to the person, and it's a nice round number. Sure, it's when when people start using numbers that aren't round numbers. When someone says nobody in their first 7 games of the season has ever blah, blah, blah. And then the next day it's nobody in their first 8 games has done this, or after the first 9 games done. It's just become like, what happened to the milestone numbers? Give me in 10s, in 5s. But now it's just random kind of numbering stuff. Anyway, but 300 is a nice round number. And of course, as soon as he scores his 300th goal, everybody goes to makes one click and goes, how many people have scored 300 career NHL goals? Like what's the number? I don't know. So that's why I always like context. When you mention something like that, you have to say, show me context.
Right. He's now 47th overall, whatever he is.
The 79th player to score 300 goals in his career? Is he the 8th player to score 300 goals in his career? How many other players have scored 100 points? Not just Leafs, right? Not just Leafs. How many other players? How many 100-point players are there in the NHL? How many? I don't even know, Mike. How many do you think? The hundreds of guys must have scored 100 points in a season.
Because there was a lot going on in like the early
100, at least 100 guys who scored 100 points season. I don't know,
but not a lot of Leafs. As I think about it,
no.
Gilmore had 127.
Gilmore, Sittler, Sittler did that. I mean, Rick Vaive never did. Rick Vaive had 350 goal seasons. He never. I don't even think came close to 100.
I don't even think Dave Andreychuk got to 100. I have to check it out. But
no, I don't think so.
No, so not many Leafs have hit. Even Sundin never hit 100.
Nope.
Not as a Leaf.
Deal.
Maybe as a Nordique, he might have done it, but not as
a big deal. It's a big deal. 100 points is a big deal, in the Leafs. But again, overall, I don't even know. I mean,
you want my take on this? Who gives a rat's ass what this regular season team does? I've seen good regular season. How many years in a row? All that matters is next week, Hebsy. I'm sick of this good regular season Leaf team.
It's true. Yeah, let's go. I like what I see in young Matthew Nyes, the college player. Yeah, fit right in. Number 23 seems to have gained himself a spot on the team. Top 6, no. Top 6. But anyway, looks pretty good there. And he hasn't played like this dude. It's not like he's played 80 games this year. In college, you play. What do you play in college? 6 games? I don't know, but certainly not 80.
Is he going to be like, remember when Lonnie Bohannes would come out in a playoff run with the fresh legs or whatever?
No, Lonnie Bohannes was not a college player that just
I'm thinking of that guy
as a Hobie Baker Award. No,
the guy who wasn't a part of the regular season but kind of parachutes in or whatever with some fresh legs in the playoff run. No, you don't like that comparison?
Sure, I'll take it. Any way I can get it. Yeah, it's up to Sheldon Keefe how much he's going to play him. I don't know. Does the kid deserve to dress for the first game of the playoffs? Or is that the veterans and he sits and watches and gets the playoff experience? And maybe depending on what happens, maybe he dresses in game 2 because somebody fucked up in game 1, or he wants to go. I don't know. I'm really not that concerned. I don't care how they do it. They've just got to beat Tampa. I'm calling the Leafs to beat Tampa in 7 this year. Okay. And the only caveat is Vasilevsky. Is the only caveat. If Vasilevsky is the Vasilevsky of old, we're fucked. Right? We are. We're just screwed that way, okay?
Yeah. So moments ago, Hebsy, I was talking about, Lonnie Bohannes on a long playoff run. And then I remembered, this is Toronto, okay? The long playoff run will be if we get to a game 7. Okay?
It's true. I know what you mean. Last night, what's his name? Joseph Wall played goal. I mean, this other thing this week, this whole goalie thing was just a joke. It's just a joke. Who's going to be? Is Curtis Joseph going to play? Is he an e-bug? Does he have to sign a 1-day contract? Does he get into the salary cap? Enough. Like he said, let's just get to the playoffs. It's going to be Samsonov or whatever the hell they call him. And it's going to be Vasilevsky, and that's what's going to be. There you go. Tampa's got a pretty good team. Also, they won 5-0 over Detroit last night. They rested a couple of their big guys. Brian Elliott played goal. Nice to get a shutout in the last game of the season when it's a meaningless game, right? They go, Kid Els, get in there, and he gets a blanking, right?
Speaking of meaningless blankings, okay, the Maple Leafs were not shut out at all this season. Just throwing it out there, not a single shutout against the Leafs.
Nice. Leafs in 7, Mike. Leafs in 7.
Okay, I'm with you. Leafs in 7.
First 2 games at home, that playoff experience, that losing experience from last year,
right?
That left a bad taste in their mouths. These guys got to get something done. And I think the way Samsonov has played, he's been awesome at home. Like he's only lost like a couple of games at home, and he really has played quite well and has been injury free for the most part. I can't say that for the rest of the goaltenders. Well, we'll see what happens. Leafs in 7. Baby.
Leafs win game 7 in overtime on a goal by Lonnie Bohannes. Write that down.
Okay. All right. Baseball now, the Blue Jays return home from a 6-4 road trip, took 2 out of 3 from the lowly Tigers to start their homestand at the newly renovated Rogers Center with 5 beer gardens. And they were trying to get Hazel made drunk the other night, eh? Where's Hazel now? I like the idea of the in-game host instead of, waiting around by the dugout for the post-game interview where, somebody gets doused with Gatorade, is that host is out amongst the fans, talking to the fans, right? Here we are in the beer garden. Here we are up here, Corona over there, the porch. I like that idea. And I think that Buck and Dan should be doing games from the beer gardens instead of in that stuffy broadcast booth. They should be out there like Harry Carey used to be in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. And before that at Comiskey Park, getting his hair cut while he's doing the game. Although that wouldn't work for Dan, but it would work for Buck, eh? Well, it'll give you a haircut. You'll call the game from the bleachers or from the whatever you want, the flight deck. That's sensational. That to me is the new way to do baseball. Leave your radio guy at home while the team. Imagine Ben Wagner, first 10 games of the season, guy's sitting in his house or wherever watching the game on a monitor. And meanwhile, everybody's out in the West Coast watching, or wherever they were, Kansas City. He's sitting at home. Okay.
So even Jim Ralph and Bonesy have to call these Tampa Bay games from home.
Fuck, man, I couldn't do it. Like, no
Is
way.
that cheap or what? Like, how much it cost to send 2 guys to Tampa Bay?
Oh, but incredibly cheap. But not only that, how do you expect us to take you seriously as a media outlet when you won't even have boots on the ground?
I have the answer. You want the answer?
Yes.
They don't give a rat's ass about radio.
It's about your fans, though, man. It's about your fans.
They don't care about radio listening fans. It's come to the TV or GTFO. That's my thought on this. They've just had literally a corporate decision. We don't care about radio. Be glad you have your own radio feed.
You just be careful. Are you not a Rogers subscriber?
I'm a Bell 5 subscriber.
Oh, are you Bell 5? See, I was on Bell 5 too, but I've moved now. And
the internet's not even comparable for what it's worth. I feel like I'm moving.
I know.
It's not even close.
All right, listen. So last night at the Jays game, by the way, 26,000 sun-drenched fans. They opened the dome. Earliest they've ever opened the dome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they, I hear this, they're teasing us. They're going to check it out, make sure it's all well oiled and everything. Like, no. As soon as they open the dome, everyone's tweeting out saying, do not close this.
Yeah, because
it's 1,000 degrees like a freaking oven. Do not close this. So they opened the dome and 26,000 fans were there. And Chris Bassett started for the Jays. And he took his time out there and he looked uncomfortable out there. He's a little herky-jerky, a little jittery out there. But he only allowed 2 earned runs over 6 innings. He walked 3, he struck out 7. Unfortunately, the Jays could not come through in the clutch, even though the Tigers gave them plenty of opportunities. Here you go.
Oh, they're terrible, eh? They're terrible.
Here you go. I mean, Javi Baez, who they signed, I think, through a 7-year extension. This knucklehead. First of all, the night before, there was a fly ball to right field, sacrifice fly situation, and he didn't even attempt to fake. You know what'll happen is the ball's hit the medium right field. He's not going to score, but at least you bluff down the line. You maybe force the guy to make a throw. Maybe he makes a bad throw, right? So instead, what Javi Baez did, he just went back to the base and just put his head down. And Springer caught the ball, and he didn't do anything. And the Buck and Dan kind of went, oh, it's a weird kind of thing to do. That not really hustling. I mean, you go back to the base, you make like you're going to break. You sprint 15 feet off the base. If the guy uncorks the throw and something happens, you can score. If he uncorks a good throw, you just go back to the base. But he just sort of stood there. And then yesterday, he's at second base with 1 out. He just doubled. And there's a fly ball to center field, and he takes off as soon as the ball's hit. He takes off. Right. And he's doubled up, and he kind of looks like, and he didn't know how many outs there were. Right. In other words, you can't count to 3. In other words, you're just not paying attention. It's a boneheaded mistake. And as soon as he gets back to the dugout, they go for commercial, but the cameras were on, following Baez to see what happened. The director, the producer was sharp enough to go, look, something's going to happen here. He's going to get chewed out. And AJ Hinch, the manager, to his credit, just sort of, took him down the walkway and obviously said to him, look, man, we can't have that. You're out of the game. And then, they showed him coming back, and he's like untucking his jersey and throwing the sunflower seeds that are, left in his pocket, like sort of away. And then that was it. That's what he did. And that's what the Jays used to do. But Charlie Montoya would never take him to task. You know what I'm talking about? They'd make a dumb base running mistake. He wouldn't take him out of the game. Ever. Never. And
on that note,
they got away with shit. They got away with a lot of shit. I think they got away with a lot of shit.
Could Hinch have got Dar DeRozan out of the game? I just want to know. Okay, but Moose Grumpy on your YouTube channel, by the way, we're live every Friday at 9 a.m. You asked for a bunch of questions, so I do have a bunch. I'll just figure out where to
I didn't ask for a bunch of questions. I asked for questions, and you decide if it's a good question or not.
Right. Well, Moose Grumpy has a comment on that and just says, it was nice to see a manager hold a highly paid player accountable.
It was refreshing, and more managers should do it. I agree.
Speaking of accountability, and I know we breezed by the Raptor stuff, but I want to get Brian's question in here because Brian Gerstein is here every Friday. He says, are Masai and Bobby going to be held accountable for the current state of the Raptors? He says they're not good, and there's no good options here. This is no.
It doesn't look good for next year at this point. No. It's like, what are you going to come back with? Like, What do you do? How do you improve this team? What are you going to
Lottery pick next year.
If Nick Nurse goes, believe me, there's plenty of places they would love him in lots of places. Detroit, they'd love him in Detroit. Can you imagine? Dwayne Casey gets kicked upstairs. Hey, Nick, you want to come to Detroit?
Right.
No pressure. Come on.
Or maybe we'll make a trade, bring Dwayne back, and then send Nick.
No, he's moved up to the front office with the Pistons. He's solid there. They love him there. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there was a couple of weird comments this year. People tried to read between the lines of a tweet. It's gotten to that point. Like, what did he mean? Is there friction going on there? Well, there always going to be that, especially if a team disappoints the way the Raptors did this year. But I had said at the beginning of the year, Mike, not that I predicted, but I had said, listen, it's going to be awfully difficult for Scotty Barnes to come close to the season that he had as a rookie. Call it the sophomore jinx, whatever it is. Generally speaking, it takes a special player to be able to, repeat a great season like he had. And you've got to have a great supporting cast. And, obviously the supporting cast didn't help bring his game up or keep his game up at that level. Let's just put it that way.
All right, and I want to ask you about the Rogers Center because there's a comment, and then I have my own thoughts on this. But Craig Miller says, has Hebsy changed his mind on the Rogers Center? The areas look really fun.
I haven't been, so
you'll let us know though if you've changed your mind.
Well, I haven't been. Like I said, if you've been, tell me. Is it great? Fabulous? Is it what you expected? Is it just a big? It's another place to go and drink beer?
Right.
Come
thirsty, darling.
No, but I'm saying, are you going to the game specifically? You're going to check out these places, go for a walk around, go for a walkabout. Of course, we all do that. But I mean, did it enhance your experience at the Jays game, or would not that big a deal? So let me know.
Yeah, I'll say I still like to go to games
and the food
game,
too. Tell me about the food,
yeah.
And is it great? Is it overpriced? What's the deal? Is it fabulous?
Did you watch the opening ceremony on opening day there? Home opener, I should say.
I did.
Okay, so just speaking for myself here, everybody, I felt it was way over the top, the infomercial that we were subjected to. The constant, it felt like those real estate videos where they're showing you like the new home and newly built, whatever.
Well, they have
these
to.
areas,
Listen,
like, come on.
I mean, did you expect them to spend so much time like, well, here's the new acquisition, Brandon Belt, but there's the new beer garden.
But it makes for a boring ceremony.
Fifth level. Well, exactly. But the thing is that okay, Rogers is going to try to integrate, whatever you want to call it.
Synergy.
All of it, right? As much as they can. Two big, huge, that I saw on TV, big, huge Rogers ads in the outfield, massive ones. Big Rogers Blue Jays baseball, right? Let me tell you, if that TTC deal goes through and you can only be on Rogers if you're gonna want to, have cell phone service in the TTC. I mean, that whole deal like that. It's become, it's Rogers branded, of course. So naturally, in the broadcast, look, Dan. We know that we got Brandon Belt this year in Dalton Varsho. Yeah, everybody knows that, but nobody knows about the beer garden. Let's go. And as often as you can, let's get a shot from these areas. Look at what it's like overlooking the bullpen. Come on. And so you're going to find, I assume, that they want to fill up the general admission seats. These are the people that buying the beer. They it's cheap seats, $3 seats, $5, however much, $20, right? $20. Go out there, $20 and go spend another $60 on beer.
Easy $6. That's 2 drinks.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Just get them in the door. Get them in the door and fill up the outfield areas, fill up all those areas. And if the rest of the place looks half empty, we don't give a shit. People aren't going to buy those seats down the right field and left field line where you got to crane your neck. Not this year, they're not going to buy them. Next year, when phase 2 of the renovation is done and all those seats actually face home plate, then we could start to talk, right? But again, I haven't been, so you let me know, okay? And the big series tonight, and could the schedule be any better than this? Mike, you start 10 games on the road so that you can introduce your brand new stadium. Right. You get a shitty team like the Tigers coming in, you beat the crap out of them 2 out of 3. And then, as luck would have it, okay, or not, you happen to run into the team that has not lost this year, 13-0. They've played, every team they've played has been a last place team, and they've beaten them all, 13-0. And they come into Rogers Center Friday, and it's going to be a gorgeous weekend, and the roof's going to be open, and the beer gardens are going to be wild, and we're going to chance to knock off and you got your ace. No, you don't. Shit. It's Jose Barrios. on the mound for Toronto. This poor guy. My question is this, is he going to come out to the mound tonight with like a couch and his like psychiatrist as well? You're going to lie on the couch there and, explain what the problem is that he's got, that he can't get hitters out. As soon as he signed that long-term, that extension, he can't get hitters out, but they keep putting him out there, but he can't get guys out, but they keep trotting him out there. And now he's going to go up against Tampa, and he's going to try to end their 13-game winning streak to start the season. He's going up against Drew Rasmussen. Oh, by the way, Drew Rasmussen for Tampa, 2-0, 15 strikeouts and 0 walks in 13 innings. He's the exact opposite of Jose Barrios. So let's see if the Blue Jays, maybe their big bats can take this guy down a notch. And maybe Dan and Buck can broadcast the game from one of those new beer gardens. That's what I really want to see. That would make the whole broadcast entertaining. Instead of saying, oh, here's the new beer, just be there. Just do the games from there. I know for a fact that Dan, and I think it was John Kruk did some games from Wrigley Field out in the bleachers. They had a perch out in the bleachers. I remember one Sunday night game especially. It was great. I think it was him and Kruk, but it was terrific. And they're, it's not like they were, like it was Harry Carey, because Harry Carey was the best. Like when Harry Carey did Chicago White Sox games, he'd get hammered, right? And he'd say, we're going to broadcast the game from the bleachers. And like, I remember he got his hair cut in the bleachers one time, and they had showers. Okay. They had super hot days at Comiskey, and they would have those portable showers, right? Mike, you just pull down on the chain and you get drenched. And they would have that out in the bleachers at Comiskey. And he'd be doing the games out there. It'd be 90 degrees and people would be showering. It was wild stuff. This is the same place where they had disco demolition nights. It was a happening. It was a place to go. It was fun. And I just think it would be so great if Dan and Buck were, not in amongst the bleachers, but hey, do the game from there. Show, you're part of the crowd, man. It would be interesting. It's a visual sport, between innings. There you go. Here we are. We got our feet up. We got our little drinks with parasols. We're calling the game. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, I just remembered because I saw Kevin, Canada Kev is here on the YouTube channel, and he reminded me of something I meant to ask you about. Okay. Mm-hmm. In fact, I even have a clip here. So bear with me. This won't take very long at all. But this was, and I'm going way back of this one. This was the very first home run the Blue Jays hit this season. But just listen to this.
Okay.
And here's a drive to deep left field. Bradley back, jumps, and it is gone. The first home run for the Toronto Blue Jays this season comes off the bat of Bo Bichette to make it a 9-5 game. Home runs are for buds. That's what buds do.
Home runs are for buds. That's what buds do. This is like a tagline that Dan's supposed to say, I guess, when the Jays hit a home run.
This bud's for you.
Right.
Harry Carey did Budweiser commercials for many, many, many years, right? Cub fan,
but on the
Bud
home run,
fan. Bud.
On the home run, though. So of course, we're used to.
No, not on the home run. The home run was for like old style or whatever. Yeah, that's a Ballantine blast. Those were common back in the day. And nowadays, look, I'm not surprised by it, but you're right. Coming from Dan Shulman, it just doesn't sound
feel
right. When Dan, every time, look, every game I've ever heard Dan do on in the States, for example, on ESPN radio or ESPN television, never once have I ever heard him do any commercial endorsement at any time mentioning a sponsor. Now, I may, but hey, ESPN basketball is brought to you by so-and-so in the opening. Right. Probably, I'm not sure. Haven't seen all the openings, to shows, but generally speaking, no, he's a straight announcer in that regard, and always has been with the Blue Jays. He leaves that to the others, but for it to be part of the call,
I'll say this though,
he's a bud man. He's a bud, so he's shilling. He's a bud man. Like,
well, definitely a bud
with a hat on and go, "Hey, Shulman, bud man."
But Hebsy, man, if we hear that after every homer, buds, whatever, buds for you, whatever, I'm gonna start rooting against the ball leaving the yard. Like, I'm like, oh, hopefully that goes off the wall for a double. Like right. I'm gonna be like hoping Vladdy doesn't go deep.
So have we got any other home run calls? Does he do that on every home run call? He doesn't.
So I've heard it more than that one time. He
doesn't do it on every one. No way. It can't be.
Well, I'm going to ask. We have people.
Oh, someone else would have
channel.
noticed. I would have noticed that. That ball is hit deeper. That's a buds. I have. Has it been so subtle that I haven't noticed that he's dropped?
No, he waits at 5 or 6 heartbeats before.
And is it in fact? Wait a minute. Is it in fact Bud for Budweiser, or is it like Buds? Is it a secret, marijuana thing? Buds.
I think that's illegal, actually, but it's in the.
What's illegal?
You can't advertise cannabis on television,
but you can advertise beer.
Yes, because these.
What about gambling? What about gambling, Mike?
You can't not advertise gambling on television. That's the new law. You have.
Well, Mike, wait. So I understand that the Ontario Alcohol and Gaming Commission is put forth a proposal that to prohibit the use of athletes and celebrities that can be reasonably expected to appeal to children and young fans via internet gambling. They're going to prohibit.
Like Kevin Garnett.
There's a proposal to prohibit advertising with, Wayne Gretzky, any athlete, Connor McDavid, athlete,
a better
past or present, but also celebrities, which is a pretty gray area. Like, for example, I see a lot of these Bet Rivers commercials. Is Dan O'Toole considered to be a celebrity?
Of course, he's not there because he's handsome.
Okay,
he's there because he's Dan O'Toole.
But for someone like Dan, that's his, that's a main source of income. I would, besides what he's being still paid by TSN. I don't know. But I would assume, since he's been on those commercials for a couple of years now, that's a pretty good source of income. And now all of a sudden not all of a sudden, but for them to go, nope. People like you, they know you, they recognize you, they're young, they're impressionable, they're going to want to gamble. We don't want that. So prohibited from TV advertising in Ontario, any advertising. That's a big step.
Interesting.
That's a big step.
Because I see this Kevin Garnett one all the time, and he's the celebrity. Okay, we'll see where this goes. But
so that's just in Ontario. That's just the Ontario. It's a proposal set forth, and I don't understand how it would work. Would that work through the legislature? How I'm not understand to what levels that goes through. But the fact that it's being proposed, and the Ontario government, the provincial government could go, or are you nuts? I'm betting on like Ford could be going, you kidding me? I'm betting on all this. I love it. The reason I bet is because I'm a big fan of Dan O'Toole.
Absolutely. No, or
Joachim Noah.
Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, right? This is Jesse Pinkman. I see him all the time. God, goodness gracious. I'll just clarify that the cannabis, it goes in the Tobacco Act, so the same reason you can't see cigarette ads on Blue Jay games is why you can't see cannabis ads.
Well, pretty soon you're not going to be able to see celebrities and athletes endorsing gambling either. Mm-hmm.
Well, Brian says we never should have allowed that in the first place. He says the United Kingdom does it right, not allowing that, plus only allowing them later at night when the kids are not as easily influenced.
Right, United Kingdom. Well, yeah, there's a bunch of things the United Kingdom doesn't do right, though. So things even, and if it's that great, there maybe you move to the United Kingdom. I kind of like it still here in Ontario, even with what's going on. It's still better than most places. Mike, I mentioned the Rays are 13-0. The Blue Jays are 8-5. So it's reminding me a bit, or it's starting to at this point here, and I know it's early, 1984. So I want to take you back when Toronto was coming off an 89 win season. 1984 Toronto Blue Jays. The 83 Jays had an 89 win season under Bobby Cox. Couldn't beat out Baltimore that year. Baltimore won the World Series that year. And in 1984, they were expected to battle Detroit, who was in their division. The American League East had Detroit back in those days, and Baltimore, and the Yankees, and Boston, and Cleveland. And it was tough. And so to start the season, Detroit ran off a 9-0 record, and eventually Detroit won 35 of their first 40 games. Unprecedented. Nobody had won 35 of their first 40 games. And they took a commanding lead on a very good Blue Jays team. I mean, a very good Blue Jays team, because while the Tigers were 35-5, the Jays were 26-14. Now think about this. You're 12 games over 500 your first 40 games. 12 games over. Any other time, you're going to be leading the division, or you're going to be right there. But no, man, you're getting your ass kicked by the Tigers, 35 out of 40. And I'm thinking this year's Blue Jay team come off the road 6-4. 1984, what do you think the Blue Jays did? Came off the road 6-4. That's right. 1984 Blue Jays, their first 10 games were on the road. Came home 6-4. Right. And they didn't take on the Tigers until early June, whereas here the Blue Jays have a chance almost immediately to, knock off Tampa, end their winning streak, and maybe, derail them. Or, I don't know, they could end up losing the next couple of games, and the Rays are 15-0 and the Jays are 8-7. And Never know. But I'm thinking, okay, that year, the Jays had a really good team. Tigers, of course, ended up winning the World Series. Not of course. The Tigers did win the World Series. Because what we tend to do now is we say, okay, what about teams, these other two teams that had won their first 13 games of the season? What happened to them? Well, neither one of them did anything. The Atlanta Braves and the Milwaukee Brewers. Neither one of them went anywhere after running off 13 straight. So maybe Tampa's not that good. And gosh, what about Detroit? Okay, they went 9-0, 35-5, but look who they had. Jack Morris. I mean, Sparky Anderson was the manager who had already won a couple of World Series. Jack Morris, Willie Hernandez was the MVP that year. Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Kirk Gibson, Darrell Evans, Lance Parrish. I could go on and on. Really good team. And the Jays eventually, they got as close as 3.5 games. They got to within 3.5 of the Tigers in June.
Yeah.
Which people were like, this is unbelievable in any other season. Okay. And remember, no wild card in those days. Because if it happened, the Jays are a wild card team, but there was no wild card. You win the division or that's it, Pally. And so unfortunately, with a very, very good team, they could not catch Detroit. Eventually, Detroit ended up winning by, 9 or 10 games. But Pat Gillick realized that year that team needed to improve. All right. Because they won 89 games in 1983. And then they won 89 again in 1984. And he went out and he traded Dave Collins and Alfredo Griffin for Bill Caudle, all right, who was a bust. But we ended up with Tom Henke midway through the 85 season. And we added Gary Lavelle and Tom Filer. And we picked up Al Oliver. And to go along with, and think about this, the type of team the Blue Jays had. Let me go over this lineup for you. 84. Ernie Whitt and Buck Martinez were an excellent catching combo. Willie Upshaw at first base, 19 homers, 84 RBI, hit 278, solid first baseman. Damaso Garcia, solid at second base, stole 46 bases. The shortstop that year in 84 was Alfredo Griffin, and later Tony Fernandez came along. And obviously we knew that Fernandez was going to be the shortstop of the future. Third base, that was Mullenix and Orge. Outfield, Dave Collins, Lloyd Mosby, George Bell, Jesse Barfield, more of a part-time player coming off an injury, had some problems in the minors, was still struggling a bit, but you could see the potential. And our designated hitter was Cliff Johnson, who was excellent. And our pitching staff, Dave Steeb, 16-6, Doyle Alexander, 17-6, Louis Liel, 13-8, Jim Clancy, 13-15, Jim Gott was your fifth starter. He didn't get that many starts, 12 of the year, went 7-6. Roy Lee Jackson had 10 saves. Jimmy Key had 10 saves. Wow. Dennis Lamp, Jim Acker, pretty good. So what happens the following year, 84 to 85, they go from 89-73 to 99-62, their best season ever, and they win the division in 85. But 84 was the year. And if it wasn't for the Tigers, they're going to win that division. They're going to get in as a wild card. So I think of that 84 team and how good they were. And then what happened the next year, and then the next year, and how good they were from, I'm going to say 83 right through to 94, Mike.
Well, 94 is a strike year. So yeah, through 93.
So up till the 93.
That's a solid decade. That. Yeah.
They were. Amazing. When Bobby Cox took over the team in 82, they were just sort of getting there. 83 was a good, 83 won. They won 89 games. Mike, they were a good team. Year. Good team. And then in 84, if it wasn't for those Tigers.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this team now with the Jays. All right. Last year. All right. Yeah. They got close. They got in. They're knocking at the door. Is this the year that they break through it? Or is this the year that Tampa goes off because they got a good.
You can't compare now because we have the wild card now. So it's
but again, no, you're right. The Jays could make the play, but again, is Tampa going to be that juggernaut team like the Tigers of '84? Too early to tell, but boy, Tampa looks like a good squad. And yeah, they beat up on a bunch of last place teams, but they still win.
One fun fact about that trade, that Dave Collins trade, because I've been talking to these beat reporters who are covering the team. In fact, I have an episode coming up where it's Bob Elliott, Dave Perkins, and Larry Milson all together here.
Are you going to be barbecuing? Is it going to be outside? You have to do that one outside and let Perkins run the barbecue.
Okay, let Perkins.
Oh, you should do it. I would love to hear. I'd like to hear those guys tell stories, but it's got to be over a barbecue and like drinks.
Okay, well, that's a good tip. But one thing I've had kind of corroborated by chatting with all these guys at different times is that, Bobby Cox liked to play Dave Collins. Dave Collins stole 60 bases or something that season.
He did,
yeah, unbelievable. But of course, Pat Gillick wanted George Bell in left field. And one of the ways to force basically Bobby to play George was to trade away his Dave Collins. So
Correct.
that was one of the big. So it was like addition by subtraction, because although Bill Cottle was a bust, we all remember this, of course. But getting rid of Dave forced more George, and I'm wearing a George Bell jersey today.
Oh no, absolutely. That Bobby Cox, he was in love. He loved Dave Collins. Dave Collins was a switch hitter. Dave Collins had what we quietly called the fastest white feet in baseball. Dave Collins stole 79 bases one year for the Cincinnati Reds. I think it was 1980. So he was. I won't say past his prime, but I'm going to say that when the Jays got Dave Collins, they got maybe the last 2 good years out of him. And after that, he wasn't as effective a player. He was an okay ball player. He was not a great outfielder. He did not have a strong arm necessarily. But again, he had good wheels. He could lay the bat on the ball, and he was very popular. Like personally, he was a very personable guy. And the women loved him. And Bobby loved him too, because he was a classic kind of leadoff hitter. A switch hitter, hit the ball on the ground, beat out base hits, bunt occasionally, that kind of a thing. Very little power, as I recall, but a very handsome man and a friendly man and a very likable guy. And Gillick knew that they weren't going to go anywhere with Dave Collins in the outfield, especially with Barfield knocking on the door. And, Barfield was a Blue Jay draftee, and, let's face it, man, you gotta see how the guy performs in the major leagues. And he had, like I said, been knocking on the door, and the time was ripe because Griffin was not going to be your shortstop with Tony Fernandez coming up, and you could package those 2 guys and get a relief pitcher who didn't work out.
Love those teams. I love talking about those teams. But Craig Miller, you did open up at the beginning of this podcast. You said questions. I've been sprinkling them throughout, but Craig wants to know, what time is your tee off today, Hebsy, and have you been out yet on the golf course? No,
not in the golf mode at all. No, I don't want to be running out with the lemmings. Ooh, look at the weather. We can't get a tee time. No, that's not the way to start the golf season. You don't start the golf season, it's 900 degrees. Let's run out and play golf. First of all, I don't think the courses are going to be in any kind of great shape. How can they be in any kind of great shape? Decent shape. So the really good golf courses, they're not even open yet. They don't want to open this fast. Not good. This is the week that you have to get the course in shape. You got to clean up all the crap that happened in the wintertime. That kind of thing. Got to groom the place. But these, all of these dog tracks out there are like, oh, come on. Special, come on out here. Drink our beer, play our golf course, try not to tear it up. So I'm waiting. I'm not in the golf mode. I'm just not at all in the golf mode. I just watched the Masters last week. That was exciting. It was fun. It was good to see. I enjoyed it. But no, to me, it's got to be, all right, it's warming up a little bit, hit a few balls, you know what I mean? Maybe go to the range, hit a few balls, and then, okay, a week from now, ready to go. But not just, run downstairs, grab the clubs, throw them in the car, put a pair of shorts on. It's 1,000 degrees. Go play a little whack fuck out there. Nah, not ready. Not at all. And like you said, Mike, next week it's going to be 8 degrees again.
Yeah. We're going to go down again.
Yeah.
Okay, and I like this comment from Kev here before we say goodbye. You used the phrase a moment ago, knocking at the door. I heard you say it, okay? They're knocking at the door. How does that compare to punching your ticket? Okay, knocking at the door is okay, but punching your ticket is not. Is that
right? People still knock on doors. Knocking on a door is something that will never stop. Okay, 100 years from now, when you want to go see somebody or whatever, you're going to knock on a door. Okay, but I can guarantee you that 100 years from now, punching a ticket, you're going to, when did you punch the ticket? Why did you punch the ticket? What did the ticket do wrong that you punched it? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
well, the expression punching a ticket.
Yeah.
If I asked anybody in this house, okay, today, what's punching a ticket? They don't know. Right. What are you talking about? You mean taking out a thing and going, so, and then a little round piece of cardboard falls to the floor, and
right,
and that you hand this physically back to someone, and they know because there's a punch in it that it's
no paper allowed anymore, Hebsy. No paper.
Mike, what did I say a couple of years ago? Okay, scanning your pass. Oh, hey, the Jays scanned their pass to the playoffs. Better than punching your ticket.
Okay, so you can.
But knocking on the door will always be.
Okay, glad we could clarify that before.
Well, I'm glad you asked too, because I would hate it that you would go the entire week to go, geez, I wonder, how
I'd hold on to that one.
Why is that okay? Why is knocking on the door okay, but punching the ticket isn't okay?
Unless it's like
punching your ticket is lazy. It's lazy. It's a lazy expression. You punch their ticket. Shut up. Okay, why don't just not say it and say the Leafs are going to be in the playoffs?
Knocking on the Door is also a good Arkell song, right?
It is a good song, right? Or Can't You Hear Me Knocking by Rolling Stones.
Of course, absolutely.
You think years from now someone's going to go, what did he mean by that? What did he mean by that? Knocking. What does that mean? Knocking.
Is it Little Richard? Who is it? I hear you knocking, but you can't come in.
Yeah, man. There's all kinds of it. But you're not going to hear, for example, and now the Beatles from the White Album, Punching Your Ticket Home.
What about Knocking on Heaven's Door? That's a great Dylan jam, and I like the Guns N' Roses cover.
There you go. There you go. Have you seen the commercial with Slash on it, where it's like a high school? They're trying out for a high school band, and then they cut to Slash, and he's doing a guitar solo, and they go, "Okay, you're in," and he's going, "Cool."
No, I like that idea. Though.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Right. Anyway, there you go. And don't ever call someone a rock star, because unless they really are a rock star.
Paul Stanley will get you.
Because if Paul Stanley and Billy Idol, they'll all get you.
Anyway, Ozzy did that one too. Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, it was very good. That's it. Hello, Oswald. That's it for episode 329 of Hebsy on Sports. Thanks so much to Toronto Mike, as always, for production and inspiration. Hit him up at Toronto Mike. And don't forget to listen to his excellent podcast. You'll really enjoy it. I do. When I go out for a long walk, a very long walk, I take Toronto Mike with me. Thanks for allowing us into your headspace. We're back with another exciting episode of Hebsy on Sports next week. Until then, so long for now.